What's up, everyone? All right, today we are going to be talking to Zavir, and I believe you have recently gotten into dropshipping, right? Or at least started your store recently?
Yeah, hello.
So what's going
Jack, can
on?
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, what was your question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Just what's going on? Like what's happening?
Oh, okay. So pretty much, I'm new to dropshipping, so I recently just kind of play with eBay pretty much, and I just started to list some items there. So pretty much they gave me like 50 listings. So it was kind of interesting. So I posted some items and stuff, so not knowing what's gonna sell or not.
Mm-hmm.
So recently I came across some selling items, and I just having some difficulties because some of the shipping address, it was like PO boxes and things like that, and
Yeah.
and the item that I tried to, I didn't know how to get the item because it was out of stock. So I was just I'm a little confused in terms of setting up my site preference, and also how do I, which type of supplier I should focus on and things like that. So that's what I'm little,
Okay.
concerned about.
So regarding
Yeah.
PO boxes, you can go into your eBay settings and disable PO boxes. Personally, I use Walmart and Amazon, and both Walmart and Amazon usually honor PO boxes. There are some times where they don't, but I don't disable PO box sales because if I cannot ship to the address that they provide me, then I have the right to just cancel the sale and say that I can't ship to a PO box and I need a different address. That's what you should do, is cancel the sale, but usually I just message them and then I just say, hey, I can't ship this to a PO box. What would you like? Is there another address that I can use? And they almost always, because they want the product, so they almost always use the other address.
I see. Okay. And okay, in terms of Jack, in terms of let's say because I bought a product from Amazon, right? And I mean, I actually looked up on Amazon. I used Amazon as a supplier, and then I posted on eBay. But in terms of pricing, because I'm watching your video, and I'm also watching David video. I'm pretty sure you came across him before.
Yeah.
So in terms of pricing, how do you go about it? Let's say you look at an item in Amazon.
So most
Go ahead.
Pricing is tricky because almost all dropshippers have kind of different approaches to how they do their pricing. Personally, I believe that you need to expose yourself to as many different pricing formats as possible. You shouldn't just use one pricing strategy for everything all the time, because you're going to think that that's the only way that you can run profitably. It's really important to experiment with lots of different situations. But at the same time, when you're optimizing and beginning, it's all about just learning to handle this stuff that you're talking about right now. It's not really about making money at first. It's about learning to handle this and learning to not give up and develop systems to handle every possible thing that can go wrong. And then once you do that, it's just
Right.
routine and regularity, and eventually you get information. Like in my case, I didn't focus on earning money dropshipping, but in obsessing about learning as much as possible about it, that gave me financial stability. And now I can dropship and be more experimental, and I don't have to have this money to have the roof over my head because I get that money from YouTube and the course and other things. So it's not just the sales.
Right.
It's also getting into the habit of it and getting involved in communities who dropship. All of that is going to bring other changes into your life that bring you the changes that you're dropshipping to accomplish, So,
Right.
but it's good at the beginning to use something like 1.4, 1.35. Just use something. It doesn't really, because the way that I do pricing is that I have a 1.35 markup, and the thing is, because of how I post items, that isn't the only thing that ends up selling, because I also get. Okay, sorry, I'm being a bit babbly here. When I post items from Walmart, I price them to include a $6 shipping fee. So when I go to source the item, sometimes it's available on Amazon. So in that case, it's $6 cheaper. So those sales, while they were originally priced to be 1.35, they end up being, 2.0 or 1.8 or something like that, right? And then also, when all of my items have a default quantity of 30 on my eBay account. So people will buy 2 of an item or 5 of an item. And because all of my items start off with that $6 shipping cost, anytime somebody buys more than 1, then I get $6 in additional profit to the markup per quantity that they purchased. So those 2 situations produce a wide spread of different profit sales. We have the base sales, which are most of them that aren't that profitable. We get a couple dollars per sale. Then we have the 2 profitable forms, which is when they're multi-quantity sales or when they're priced for Walmart but sold on eBay or sold by Amazon.
Right. So I have a question. Let's say if someone purchased something from my eBay store or whatever I listed, and it's coming from, let's say, Virginia or something. So how do I, like, does it matter where the shipping is going? That's how they will arrange the tax and shipping, all that stuff. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Do you mean, like, does the shipping cost change based on the state?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
it depends on your source.
Like
So almost all sources,
okay.
the tax that you pay is going to vary. In some instances, you'll pay no sales tax. In other situations, you will pay sales tax. That's the most common variant when it's one state to another state. But when your source has, like most sources have a base shipping price. Like Walmart, it's $6 or it meets the 3 shipping threshold. With Amazon, it's always free. Some other websites, a lot of other websites do charge by weight of package, right? They're not big enough to have a flat fee. So personally, I only use things that have a flat shipping fee. But that doesn't mean that you can't work around it. Like you can just look at how much shipping normally costs, and you need to establish what the range is and figure out, okay, what is the most expensive zip code here and what is the cheapest zip code here. And there are ways that you can like up the price of things when they sell based on the states that they're in to cover costs. There's ways to work around all of it, but I find that it's best to work with at least at the beginning, it's best to work with something that is fairly standard and simple, like Walmart or Amazon or Home Depot. Actually, Home Depot is great. A lot of those big companies are good.
Okay. And so what if it's like an international sale, like GSP?
Then that's a good question talking about sources, actually, because some sources honor GSP sales. And what you have to establish with your source is, will they ship to known freight forwarders? GSP is a freight forwarder. They are a place that receives packages and then sends them to another address. You can freight forward something back into the States, or you can freight forward it overseas. There's a bunch of places it could be going. Some sources will not ship to freight forwarders because some people use freight forwarders for fraud. They use it to anonymize, like they'll hack somebody's account and have something shipped to the freight forwarder. And some of the sketchier freight forwarders just, completely anonymize everything, or they make it easy to. So, but yeah, you have to talk to the customer service and ask them, do they allow shipments to freight forwarders? And like right off the bat, like some will, some won't. Most of the major ones do, like Amazon does, Walmart does, Home Depot does. And in my head, Home Depot, Walmart, and Amazon are the main 3 drop shipping sources. You can obviously source from something like AliExpress, but it's a different game because the waiting time is so long. It's just different.
How about I was looking at because I'm thinking, like, if everybody gets it from Amazon, Home Depot, or let's say Walmart, then do I have a chance to compete or like to take some of the items and post on eBay?
It's just different. Like, it's not just about like when people start drop shipping, they think like, okay, there's this. It's about finding the profitable items, right? So you have this item, and in your head, you're like, okay, that item is the item that gets me sales and money. But it's not that simple. It's not just about finding the right item, because you could take a listing that everybody else is selling a whole bunch of times, like hundreds of times, and copy their listing and do the exact same thing, and you might not get any sales. It's not like you have to understand that it's not just the right item. It's the right item in the right place at the right time. And that, I think, is something really important to understand as a dropshipper at the beginning, is that you need to be having set ending dates for your listings, and you need to be reiterating them. Like, say that a listing goes for 30 days and doesn't produce a sale, or maybe 60 days. Don't let it continue past that point. You don't have to necessarily delete it or take it down, but it's really important that you do repost that listing, because when listings kind of begin, they're kind of being judged by eBay, right? And if they perform well, then they're more likely to continue performing well. So ideally what you do is you just reset the beginning of the lifetime over and over and over again, and separate the well-performing listings from that reset process.
So, okay, so what you're saying, if the item doesn't sell, just take it out from listing, or like re-edit everything, like the optimized title, picture, and all that
obviously
stuff?
you can optimize it more, but if you have the exact same listing and you just take it down and relist it, it will perform better for that second 30 days. Say that you have a listing that didn't produce any sales for the first 30 days, and you take it down and relist it, it's more likely to perform better than if you had left it up. Because the beginning of a listing's life cycle is when it's given the most kind of like free exposure. After that, its exposure that it's given is based on kind of its performance and whether sales are produced and competition and a whole bunch of other things. But when it's new, it gets it's just better for it. But obviously once it's started to produce sales, then you don't want to take it down and delete it. So you can kind of just refresh it over and over and over again until it produces results, even if you've already optimized it as much as possible. Because really what you're doing is like you're creating a list of items that you've put work into. So as soon as they're not producing sales, then you should just be kind of reiterating that beginning part of their life cycle until they produce results. And they're not always going to, but by doing that, you will get better results.
Okay. And, okay, now quick question about something that I had in mind. Jack, how much time do we have?
We have about 13 more minutes.
All right, sounds good. Now, quick question. Sometimes I see that on eBay, people are listing their item at like a much cheaper price. How do they get an item for that cheap? Like,
so
what is it they do?
It's funny that you asked that, because I just had a conversation with Ken. You should probably check that out, because it's all about the title of the videos is how like profit from sales that don't produce profit, because it's a really hard concept to understand, right? Like some people are selling items that are cheap. Like there are people who sell items for the cost of the source, but they have to pay eBay fees, PayPal fees. Like if you do the math, it looks like they're losing money. And that's what you have to understand, is that there are many, many, many different opportunities to earn profit once you have cash flow established. Having cash flow established, even if it's operating at a loss, can allow you to be profitable. And this can be done through a whole horde of different mechanisms. But for some examples, there's things like gift cards, cryptocurrency, cashback, and then there's ways to get priced, like go back after the orders happened and get part of it refunded to you. There's like more information than I can explain. So just understand that you actually can be profitable even if you're losing money from a sale. And that's ultimately why I don't recommend that you play the undercutting game, because if you continuously undercut, you get forced into a situation where you have to learn more about that side of just making money off of the cash flow. When that doesn't have to happen, you can sell things for more expensive than other people are selling them.
I see what you're saying. Okay, how about the tax exempt thing?
What do you mean?
Like, how do I go ahead and apply for that? Like, what do I do?
Okay, so tax exemption.
To get like taxes.
Like it's important that if you're doing anything with business, that you develop a relationship with a CPA or some kind of tax accountant who knows what they're talking about, and you ask them those questions, because I'm not an accountant. But I'll share
No,
my
no, I'm talking
understanding.
about, how you meant. No, not that. I'm talking about how it's Walmart, if you could apply
Yeah, you can get tax exemption.
get tax exempt.
Yeah, what I said is basically just a
Yeah.
disclaimer because this is a public YouTube video, and I have to make sure that people
Oh,
don't
okay.
take what I'm saying as me giving
Okay.
tax advice, right?
Right.
So you can get sales tax exemption on Walmart as long as you are registered to pay sales and use tax in a state. Sales and use tax is something that you have to pay on sales as a business. Remember that most laws in the books aren't for internet businesses. They weren't developed with those in mind. So the idea is that, okay, if you have a business in Virginia, well, you're obviously selling to people in Virginia because you're selling people out of your business, because that's what traditional business was, right? So
Right.
on those sales, you have to pay tax into your state. But when you're selling an item online and it's going to another state, then you don't necessarily have to pay tax. So you can get a tax exemption with Walmart as long as you show them, hey, this is the state I reside in, and I have identification number here to pay sales and use tax to my state. So you don't have to pay sales and use tax on this transaction because I'm going to do it. So you just need to register to pay sales and use tax. That's all you need to do. You just Google it, and then there's other registrations you should get to make your business completely legit, But when it comes to getting tax exemption, that is the one qualification that you need.
I see. One, another last question that I have for you is, something about the algorithm of like eBay. How does that work? So how do eBay rank your product? If I have the same title as you, you're more advanced seller, obviously.
There's a lot to that question, but I'll try and help with a way to think about it. There are many, many variables that can either be in your listing's favor or against you. Okay? Optimization is learning what these variables are and tweaking them in your favor. And there are many things, like just I have a video talking about like 27 of them that I know of, but there are, because it's not like, all right, it's not like eBay's algorithm. It does have a certain number of variables that it looks at, right? But eBay's algorithm alone isn't it. There's more to it than that, because ultimately the whole experience is eBay's algorithms combined with how buyers interact with the listings. And so it's not as simple as just understanding eBay's algorithms. You have to also understand how the things that you do in your listing affect the buyer's experience, because that is going to affect the algorithms. It's not as simple as just understanding what the algorithms are. You have to also understand what buyers do. And I refer to this as indirect effects and direct effects. So having a cheaper price is a direct effect, because people can search for things by price. They can eBay will show you things that are cheaper first if you want it to. That has a direct effect on what happens to your listings, right? Where it gets placed. Whereas something like your feedback score is indirect. It doesn't have as much of a difference in the buyer's experience unless the buyer is choosing to not look at your feedback score, or they're choosing to, like, some buyers don't give a fuck and some buyers care way more.
Right.
But there's I have a video. Let me send it to you 1 second. YouTube. I think you can find it if you just type, if you go to Google and you type Jack Pittman 27 things that affect eBay, I think. Yeah, 26 things. Okay. Yeah, the video is called 26 Things That Affect Your eBay Sales and Cassini Search Results. And so that's as many as I know of. I think after recording that video, I realized there were like 2 or 3 more, but there's a whole bunch of them. And the more that you learn about them, then the more you're going to understand how you can give your listing the best chance. But the biggest thing here is everybody, when they start, they are too attached to individual listings. That attachment will cause problems. And that's why the biggest thing you can do as a beginner dropshipper is to put an end date on all of your listings. Do not keep things up for more than 30, 60, or 90 days. Just pick one and stick to it. That is really, really important. and it's not going to guarantee you succeed, but it is going to really increase the chance that you like. You cannot just think, okay, I have 10 items in my store now, and then you add 10 more, and then you add 10 more, and it's like, all right, I have 100 items in my store right now. You have to think about how you're going to continue doing this in the future, and by reiterating and restarting over and over again, that I believe is the best way to do it.
Okay, sounds good. And one last final question. Which software would you recommend? Recommend for me as a beginner?
There's no one best software. I recommend that you try as many as you can. So really the best software for you as a beginner is what is the most affordable and what is the cheapest. So for that, I'd recommend DSM Tool because it's free for less than 50 listings. And Pricematik can be used for a 7-day free trial where you get the full thing. But the trouble is with Pricematik, after those 7 days, you lose any kind of inventory tracking on your like your out of stocks and repricing and all that kind of stuff. Whereas on DSM, it comes with that. As long as you're less than 50 listings, then it's free. So there's another one, another software I heard about recently. I don't remember what it's called though, but it had a similar pricing format to DSM. And I think with time, more dropshipping software will follow suit, where when you're small, it's free, and then as you get bigger, it scales up. But for now, DSM Tool and the other tool that I can't remember the name of, if you want to find it, you and whoever's listening to this video, you can follow Becky's channel, Broke to Boss Girl, and she, I think, is switching from Hydra Lister to this new tool that I can't remember the name of.
Got it. Okay. Well, Jack, thank you so much for your call. It really means a lot.
No worries, man.
Keep in touch with you. You answered a lot of my questions. Yeah, thank you, Jack. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Just make sure that as when you get stressed and that kind of stuff, like I know things are going to seem really overwhelming, especially when you got all these problems to fix. Just like it's all about getting experience with as many of the different scenarios that can possibly come up as possible, and then learning how to make systems for them. So you have to view what you're going through at the beginning as a very good thing. Even though stuff's going wrong, that is what's teaching you. What sucks is when you've made a bunch of listings and stuff's not even going wrong. There's nothing happening. Like that's in my head is like the worst place to be, So even if you're getting like sales, as long as you're getting the experience, that's what matters. So that's what you should focus on.
Right. Appreciate it. All right, Jack. Thank you so much. Not too much of your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'll definitely keep in touch and talk to you.
Yeah, sounds good. It was great to chat, man. Catch you later.
All right.
Ciao.
All right.